Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. And so I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, dregs, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascist, maggots, and of course those dog-faced pony soldiers.
Yeah. So for those that are tuning or will be tuning in, I was playing there with with how we look, and there's a way to get a more close-up look at us, but we determined that was
pretty
not
scary.
We can do that for the Halloween show or something. We don't need a mask. Yeah, this is much better, but a little bit more laid back this way. All right. I just want to talk a little bit about the weather because we've had these really strong storms, through the Midwest, and into the South, and here on the East Coast. Lots of rain, tornadoes, all kinds of things. I mean, when I start getting tornado warnings, like these little messages, I'm like, okay, where I live is not generally a tornado area, but when they issue the warning, you're like, what in the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
But I was up on Memorial Day. We went to go visit a friend whose daughter was graduating from high school, and so that was something that started around 5 o'clock, and the weather was okay there for a while. But after about an hour or so, the rain started coming down, and my wife were like, "Well, it's time to go anyway." But of course, she picked like the peak time to leave, So, and I'm glad she had to decide. She drove the SUV, and as we're driving out of that little neighborhood in Monrovia, Maryland, I mean, it was just coming down. I mean, we're up there. And it's like you pretty much could not see very much in front of you. The visibility was close to zero.
Yeah.
And weather is so strange in terms of how it works and where the rain bands are and all this stuff. Because I know you're pretty familiar with Montgomery County. So as we got back towards Damascus, so we're up there and about to hit Woodfield Road, and on the way back, basically, which is more or less a kind of a straight shot back to my house, it was basically dry,
Yeah, it's very strange. Like it's dry, 2 blocks over, and it's pouring rain here. And the rain, the last few rains we've had here, it's been some of the heaviest rain I've seen in years. Those things go in cycles, and the sun is angry again. You're getting solar flares and sunspots, and you see the last month or so there was a couple of days where the cell phones and stuff were a little messed up because of solar flares doing stuff to the satellites and so forth. So we're in a volatile solar area, solar period right now. So that'll mean weird weather of all kinds: hotter, colder, wilder, and earthquakes and stuff like that. The sun gets angry. We all get angry. So. It is what it is. We're better at dealing with it now than we ever have been. But it has been interesting to see, heavy rain here for the first time in a lot of years, like probably 10 years since we've had this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking it's the end of May. We haven't officially hit the official beginning of summer, but it has been. The conditions were kind of right too, right? It was hotter and humid.
It's hot air over cold air. And,
yeah.
Cold air catches up to it, and that's when you have the storms.
And everything like that. But, I mean, Houston got hit pretty hard. There's pretty devastating tornadoes.
With some people saying that, they played it. They had a game there, the Astros. And there was a lot of talk on, a lot of Astros Twitter stuff, right? And that they should not have played, that they should have rained out a game in a dome stadium because getting there was so dangerous. And, you could hear the guys talking about it on TV. They're like, we've been here through some storms before, but what's going on out there now is a doozy. If you don't hear from us for a while, that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, and all this weather, what is it playing into? I mean, I think it was the Wall Street Journal ran an article the other day about homeowners insurance, and this has been getting problematic for several years. Particularly those on the West Coast and those down in Florida, where they've been hit with, tornadoes and earthquakes or tropical storms, all hurricanes, whatever. And so now insurance companies have been, they've been pulling out of some areas, leaving the homeowners to deal with maybe a state agency, which gives you these bare bones policies to cover things. But they were, maybe it was the Post. I guess I wrote about this that said that, a lot of homeowners are now, they're so priced out or feel they're priced out, they're going without homeowners insurance because of the pricing. And, on the one hand,
you got to own it though. If you have any kind of lien on it, you have to insure it.
Right. You're forced into it. I mean, if you've got a mortgage, you have to. But if you've got your house paid off, you don't have to. But then basically you're now taking the risk. You are now self-insuring against any kind of loss. And I don't know. I mean, at what price, is that, too much? I understand when people say, well, I can't afford that property, the homeowner's insurance to one degree. But boy, all you need is one big storm, and it'll have more than taken care of your premium. In many cases. Yeah. So these property insurers, they for years they've lost money because the events have outstripped, and the damages have outstripped their collection, because the way they price this is that they don't really look forward. They're supposed to, I guess, maybe it's by law, or maybe it's just the way the model's always been. It's always a look back. It's like it's historical standard of what the experience of what they've had, and then they price for the next year. Right. And so, now that we've had a few years of where we've had some pretty big storms, a lot of those increases are coming to effect. And for them too, a lot of these homeowners or the insurers, there's this reinsurance industry that underlies that. That is their safety net. That for the big catastrophic events, they're the guys that step in and cover and help try to make sure that the insurers don't go broke. Well, they've been raising their rates, like crazy, so that has forced the prices up. So I know on homeowners, I know on car insurance, everything else, all that stuff continues to just creep up or go up. And I'm like,
go up dramatically in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
it costs more to buy a home now in the U.S. than it ever has before. Both in real dollars and in inflation adjusted dollars.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the interest rates are sky high, and so what that means is, it's not the renters. There's renters insurance that replaces your bed and your clothes and whatnot. But so the people who are on the hook for owning stuff own a lot of stuff, so they have to buy a lot of this insurance. So there's some bad stuff.
It's hard because you're pricing. You're getting homeowner insurance. I mean, it's to repair and rebuild or whatever, plus also replace whatever you've lost, your contents, your valuables. I mean, if you have a lot of expensive jewelry, you need to buy a rider for that. But just your basics, and it can add up really, really quickly. So you have to make sure that you've got proper coverage for all that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine not having homeowners insurance. And I kept thinking about this. I was thinking about this the other day. I thought, well, it paid off. I don't know how much money I've spent in premiums since the time I've been a homeowner. But when they replaced my roof, a few years ago, I'm sure that more than covered all the premiums I've ever paid. Really? And I had some other claim at the other house, so I'm thinking like, yeah, I don't know, I know because of the roof situation, whatever that other claim was, we're over $40,000 in claims that they paid out. I think maybe by maybe I'm getting closer to a break even for them on the homeowner side. They're probably doing okay on the car side. We've had a couple things happen there, but I think that's probably, they probably do a little bit better with my vehicles than they have done with my home. But it's one of those things that evens out over time, right. And everything. So it's an interesting thing to see is how all of this is developing across the country. And I mean, I feel for people who feel stretched, though I don't have as much sympathy for those that actually choose to live in the path of where you've got a hurricanes are frequent, or tornadoes, or earthquakes, or mudslides. If you're starting to build in a remote location on a mountainside that might be subject to fires or mudslides or something like that, it's like I'm not as sympathetic, because you chose that. You do rather than something else. So the risks were going to be inordinately higher for you, and all that. And I think most of the time it works out, but you get some of the things that tragic of some of those events that have happened in California, like people have really been wiped out from some of those events.
Right.
So anyway, so yeah, it's good golf weather.
Yeah, been really good golf weather. Last night was beautiful. It was beautiful until like I played 9 holes, and I'm like, okay, there's about half an hour of daylight left. I'm gonna go. There's a way to go. Just play 3 holes, right? I'm like, that's easy to do in the half hour. I played the first hole. It was pouring rain. So then I had to go back and wait for it to stop raining before I could walk home. So if I'd have just gone home when I thought, after 9 holes, like I told myself I was going to, I would have beaten the rain. It ended up costing me like an hour and a half that I had to sit there waiting on it to quit raining.
I think I probably was asleep by that time. I can wake up in the morning. I'm like, yeah, I guess it rained. My wife will say, it rained really hard last night. And like, I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, where we live, so, if someone doesn't look out the window and see it raining, we won't know. You don't ever hear it, which is the weirdest thing. Like I was in Louisiana, I heard it everywhere, all one place I ever lived in Louisiana. But here, it's like you don't hear it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it depends on where you are, and all kinds of so many different factors around there. Things are still happening in Rafah. Netanyahu said something to the effect that the strike that killed some civilians was a tragic mistake. But I think Israel also said that when as they're looking into it, that the explosions of some of these things that are going on there could not have happened with their drone strike.
Yeah, they use small munitions,
right?
Like we couldn't create fires like that out of what we used, right? Because they're trying to micro target who they're going after. And I guess a bunch of the tents got burned up, and some of them had people in them, and that was the thing that people were mad about.
Yeah.
Now you have you have South Africa, which, going to the UN saying, punish Israel for letting up on this, right? For not letting up on this, and there's I guess the UN will have a resolution before it today. It's like the 6th time there's been a resolution before the UN to order Israel to do a ceasefire, and the U.S. has vetoed all of them so far. Yeah, they have weapons stored everywhere. That's right. So,
right. And that,
you got it. So the point of that, though, is that I was getting to too, is you got to finish this, right? They're not gonna win any hearts and minds by stopping now, right? If Israel stopped everything today, people would still say, look at the horrible things you've done, right? Jew haters are going to Jew hate, right? That's what they do. So, you're doing it now. You're in the process of doing it. Finish it, right? Wipe them out. Find every person you can find who is responsible for the terrorism that Hamas commits and deal with them one way or the other. Kill them, put them in prison, whatever they're doing with them. And they're combatants. They brought it on themselves. They asked for it, and they deserve it. Okay, and then move on. But don't stop now. You're not done. They're not done. If you stop while Hamas has a chance to reconstitute, then you'll be right back where you are 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, and the world will be even less on your side than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, and a couple of things too. I mean, as one to Bob was saying in terms of they store weapons everywhere. I mean, I think that's part of their strategy too, right? I mean,
yeah,
you store these weapons, and then I mean, if they're in civilian areas and they happen to blow up and kill a lot of civilians, well, then you point the finger at Israel, and say, look what they did there, But but I think Israel's got a good case there, as if anybody is going to really listen to their case, at least the media and some of these people like at the UN, with that regard. Plus, I mean, Hamas is, they're starting, they've been lobbing, more missiles and things into Israel. So,
Right.
if they're looking for a peaceful solution, they're not showing it at all.
Right. That's the two things about this, that people don't think about is, October 7th was the start of the attack on Israel. The attack has continued every day except for like one or two since October 7th, right? The Hamas has not stopped attacking Israel. And the other one is they want to, they want a ceasefire, but they're not ceasing fire, right? They still are pressing the thing. And it's like, the other one is like two-state solution, right? They talk about, that's something the West wants, right? We American politicians over here talking about two-state solution, so forth. It's not something the Palestinians want or the Israelis want. So why would that be the thing they agree to? There's not going to be two states, right? They want Israel dead. So if you give them a state, you're giving them the right to make treaties, buy weapons, right? So forth, sell stuff for the weapons you might not want sold, and all that stuff, right? Because I have a sovereign right to field an army and all that kind of stuff. So if you do that, this is never going to end. It's going to keep going on and on and on. So I mean, the only way to do it is to completely sublimate Hamas, eliminate them, and teach the Iranians that if they mess with Israel again, this will be happening to you. You don't want this in the streets of Tehran. Leave us alone.
Yeah, I mean, and to that too, it's just that Hamas. I mean, while as they continue to do this, it's kind of like hoping that trying to convince court of public opinion, put this media pressure, political pressure, get other countries to kind of align with you because you've made this big stink about civilians being killed, even though you've kind of set them up as patsies in the whole thing to do this, while you continue your effort to go ahead and just bomb away at Israel. And one of the results of this is that we had 3 countries come out and say, we're recognizing we recognize a Palestinian state. So these are the kinds of things that they want, right? They want recognition. They want these countries to come out and say, we will recognize a Palestinian state. They want to get some of that leverage.
Right. I'm not sure what the value of that is, though, because the Palestinians don't want a Palestinian state. So they want Israel. They want to wipe out, from the river to the sea. They're trying to kill all the Jews and take over their country. So this is not something you can negotiate a settlement to, right? There's no agreeing to what their demands are. The one demand they have.
Yeah, I mean, practically, I mean, the Palestinian state. I mean, these declarations. I mean, what the value for them really is just like, they can say, see, these countries are on our side. They're going to start to be able to build a coalition to put the screws to try to.
It's just PR.
Yeah.
Of no substance. It's not going to happen. It's like endorsing the Libertarian Party candidate for president.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
didn't work out too well. But anyway.
I mean, even Nikki Haley, as she endorsed, through support to Trump. I mean, didn't she say that? I mean, they've, Israel has got to basically finish the job. So we've got there's still support there, but it's hard. That Hamas is the whole PR machine and everything like this has definitely eroded some of the normally strong support for Israel. But as we've said before in the program, this has put Biden into a real difficult box here. As the election continues to draw nearer, things are happening. He's got problems all over the place that he's got to try to resolve or contain, and he can't do it. He doesn't know what to do.
Right. He's stuck on that. He's stuck on immigration, right? These mayors of these big cities that he's counting on to vote for him, are pounding him over, all the immigrants he's dumping on their doorsteps that they have no way to take care of, right? And so the mayor of New York, mayor of Chicago, right, mayor of Philadelphia, have all in the recent weeks complained about what Trump's doing. I mean, what Biden's doing on immigration, flying people directly into the, inside of the country and dumping them off to, so you'll have more illegal immigrants here for some reason. And so they can't, he can't win that battle, right? Because if he closes down the border hard, he has all the leftists let everybody in, people are mad at him. And if he doesn't close down the border hard, then he has the mayors and the places where the core of his support is mad at him. So, he's in a box on that one. He's in a box on this one because, half of his party, maybe more than half at this point, wants Israel to stand down and let Hamas regather and reload, because that's what they'll be doing. And, I don't know how he's not a strong leader to start with. So I don't know what he does to fashion all this out. And on top of all that, if you're watching the polling, yeah, it's close. Yeah, it's 2 or 3 points here and there, and within margin of error on a lot of those things. But two things are happening that are deeply troubling to Biden. One of them is some of these things are getting to where they're at 50%. If it's, you say, okay, 47 to 44 and 50 to 47 are both 3-point leads, right? But at 50, every undecided voter can go to you and I still win, right? Once you go over 50, everybody we haven't accounted for, they don't have to come to me, right? I got enough coming to me anyway, right? And the other thing is there are fewer, you're starting to see the undecideds go down, right? You're starting to see, it was 10%. Now it's, 6, 7%, 5%. Some of these polls, some of them is even less than that. So that means people are coalescing. They are making up their minds. The general consensus on that is when you get to June, end of June, which is now a month away, right? We're almost to, I guess today's the 29th, right? So almost to the end of May. So about a month from today, if Biden has not turned it around, then he's in real trouble. That is why the Democrats are getting desperate now. They have $71 million worth of TV ads bought. Trump has no TV ads bought, right? And the Democrats think that's a big show of strength for them. But anybody who's spending $71 million on TV in May has a problem, right?
Let me ask you this too, because you follow the polls a lot more than I do overall. What happened? Do you recall where we were 4 years ago in terms of Trump Biden poll wise?
Trump was never in as good a shape as he is now. Trump was never winning in any polls in 2020. He was behind the whole time. He was close, but he was behind the whole time.
So was he closer to he trailed Biden? Was he closer to Biden then than Biden is to him now, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Are we roughly the same situation? We've just seen the script flip a little bit.
Closer to your second statement. It's roughly the same, but the script. But the other thing is like Biden's on Rasmussen, for instance. Biden has spent most of 2024 in the very low 40s, 40, 41, 42%. Today he's 44, which is the highest he's been in, I think, 6.5 months. And, but it's generally been low 40s. Trump went off at 45 on election day 2020 and lost. So, 44 is a losing number. 43 is a losing number. All the rest down are losing numbers. And like Reuters has him in the 30s, has Biden in the 30s, and like 37, 38%. So, those are bad polls. It has the latest round of polling. There's some Trump has gone ahead in all the swing states except Michigan, and the experts say that if you're winning Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. If you're winning Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, you're not going to lose Michigan, right? They're not that far. They're not that different. Also, poll out this morning, Roanoke College shows that in Virginia, it is 42 to 42. Trump and Biden. If Trump wins Virginia, then you're looking at a 350, 380 vote landslide.
Interesting. Here's a comment from Bob.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's
exactly right. That's my point I've been making, is that Like, get it over with decisively. Find the people you're looking for, take care of the business, close the shop.
Right. And I think we've said too, and people who understand this is that there always will be civilian casualties in conflicts like this.
Right.
You can't avoid it, particularly.
Right. Especially when they go use them as human shields and, make their weapons in schools and hospitals. Right. I mean, they want to put civilians in the middle of it. That is by design of Hamas.
Yeah. And they're not, and the people there they tend to be clustered. They're not, they're not spread out widely spread. So these areas, there are a lot of people there, and you can only move them or do that, and Israel has done, a great job, I think, overall of saying they've basically said, look, we're planning to do this. Get your people out of there. Get the civilians out of there. So
that's what they've been doing. That's
right.
what they've been trying to do.
Right. And so to minimize the casualties. But as you said, when you're using that still means that we've got these terrorists using, civilians as human shields and then saying, see, look at the atrocities that Israel's committing. And it plays very well on television, right? It plays very well in the media. They eat this stuff up. And then that winds up getting to the campuses and the protests that we've had and all these other things, that we've seen across the country, where people don't understand what the issue is. It gets into Congress too. I mean, right? The support for Israel in Congress has eroded to a certain degree at this point too, where not even the strongest Democrats are necessarily supporting Israel like they would have before, and that will also be problematic for them come the fall. In terms of that, there's
about a 75% issue here in this country, pro-Israel.
Yeah. So it's just like, if you're Biden, you really, Democrats have really got to find a way to resolve a lot of these issues, because you don't want, these issues that hang over you are just, he's got a multiple list of things that are problematic for him. And, the more that he has, the worse chance that he has of actually winning this race. And they're lingering. I mean, we're talking October 7th. So what's my count up? 236 days. So, it won't be much longer before we hit a 1 year mark. If it's still a problem by November, and I don't see that this conflict is ending anytime soon, this will reverberate to the election. It's because it's kind of like, it's not just this war that will hurt him, but it's that plus this, one thing and another thing and another thing, like you said, immigration, the economy, all these different kinds of things, inflation, that type of thing, that does that. And so all these things, when you start adding them together, it just starts to weigh Biden down, and so that becomes another point where, where does he find a path to victory? That it's pretty narrow for him at this point. Right. And you're talking about all the money. You're talking about all the money that the Democrats are going to spend on Biden. Why does Donald Trump have to spend any money right now? He's off there talking about after his trial, after every day.
He gets a free 20-minute commercial every day, and it's televised on every network. He's standing there, and there's that dude standing. Who is the guy standing beside him? Do you know?
No.
There's some guy that stands beside him every day, never says a word, just looks at the camera, and stands by Trump. And it's the same guy. So he must be Secret Service or whatever. And he stands there, and Trump gives his talk, and then they walk off. And Trump gets to frame all the issues as he wants, and there's no chance to ask him questions and trap him and knock down his view at all. It's a perfect daily 20-minute message to the American people, free media, right? He's not buying any commercials. He's on 20 minutes a day for free, right? Saying what he wants in his voice, uninterrupted, unquestioned. So, fine job there. And now, you have the case has gone to the jury, and you now have to deal with, will they convict, right? There's some question about whether they can convict given the evidence they've given. Even the guys on CNN and stuff are like, the case has not been proven. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that.
I'll have one more comment about which is exactly
that's right.
Yeah,
they're trying. Yeah, they want that number because that makes everybody mad.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, when I when I watch this whole thing between Trump, his what he does after every day of the trial, and then these various rallies in New York and places like this. It's like it is somewhat reminiscent of 2016 in the sense of the media covers a lot of these things now, kind of like they did in 2016. And so, as you said, free media, that's his earned, it's what they call earned media, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to spend a dime really, to pay the networks or anything like that. It may cost him money to put on the rally or whatever, but he doesn't have, he's not spending money on, on campaign ads. They're doing him a favor. Then they fall right back into that, the thing that they really tried to avoid after that, because they in 2016 the media did him a big favor by covering all these rallies. Not
Right.
He was such a phenomenon, not realizing what they were doing was that they were fueling that campaign. He didn't have to spend any money, and he could go right into office.
I mean, their strategy was, to show what a fool he is. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the same type of thing. They think, okay.
The other thing is, they scared the heck out of the Democrats with the rally in New Jersey and the rally in the Bronx, especially the Bronx. If you look at the video of that crowd, right? There's and the video of the reporters that went in there, and they're asking all kinds of people, white, black, Hispanic, Middle East, what do you think of this? They're railroading Trump. They're treating him like they treat us. They're mistreating him like they mistreat us, right? This is not justice, right? So that, I mean, the exact lines you would want them to say, right? People of all colors. So what you have said is the cool people of New York, the people who hear about everything first, right? New York is, they're our cultural leader of a city, right? Them in LA. And the people who are more on top of what's going on in the world than anybody else, in theory, or how they're perceived and so forth, are telling you Trump's being railroaded, and the cool thing to do, the cool thing that we cool New Yorkers are doing is voting for Trump. Right now, will he carry the Bronx? Probably not. Will he win New York? Probably not, but it could be very close. It'll be a lot closer than they think they are. But he put a scare into them, right? Because a lot of people gave the exact correct campaign commercial line there, and it sure did look like Trump was not all that hated by minorities, at all. So, and I think you saw a lot of the sort of a stepped up amount of freak out after that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just as you were saying, they wanted it, back in 2016, the idea was to show that Trump is this kind of crazy, unhinged guy, but America loved it. They loved the whole "Make America Great Again" thing. They loved what he was saying and doing and everything like this. And so now, they're still kind of stuck in this, like, okay, he might be the first president who's convicted, go to jail, and everything like this. So they're watching him, and they're and his antics. They think, okay, this will show that how unhinged he is. But just like everything else, just like how all of these court cases have boosted his campaign. Even when he mouths off, he hasn't hurt himself in the long run, right?
So the other thing is that people are judging Trump by what came before. Well, he went away and he learned some lessons, right? And one of them was you need to upgrade the people around you. You need to upgrade the campaign people and the staff people and so forth. And so he's really done that, right? The people running that thing now, I mean, people meet with them and come out saying night and day from the last crew. The daughter-in-law is doing a great job at RNC. Cannot be denied. She's got them actually doing what they're supposed to do, supporting the party and supporting all the candidates, right? Instead of just the ones, Mitch McConnell selected and so forth. So, the party is finally acknowledging that it's controlled by MAGA, and that, that's who should be calling the shots, and that should be who's fielding the candidates and so forth, because that's the faction of the party that appeals to the American people. The George Bush wing of the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, Freudian slip all over the place there, is dead, right? How could you win an election with that now? Where would you run where that would be the popular way to be? It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I don't know. It's just interesting to see how this is all kind of turning out. for this. It's just their desperation. It's just Bob's comment is right on top because we're going to talk about this anyway.
Right, that's right. So yesterday, Trump has been having Republican politicians from all over the country come in and like attend a day of the trial, right? It showcases them, gives them a chance to impress the people back home, and it shows that the whole party all over the country thinks that what is happening to Trump is bad, right? That wasn't the signal in 2016 or 2020 that the entire party was behind Trump. This is the first time we're actually saying that and letting that be the thing that Republicans say, right? So they're having all this stuff, and Trump is, he's feeding off of it. He's moving ahead.
Yeah, and it's easy on the DeNiro thing to say in hindsight, but this was like one of the dumber ideas that the campaign has had.
So they've been having this deal, and so the Democrats say, "Well, okay, we're going to try this," right? So they send DeNiro and those two cops, that are on MSDNC all the time, down there to tell how much they hate Trump, right? And somebody rigged their car alarm to go off while DeNiro's talking. You watch his speech the whole time. And then somebody got into him. He ends up cussing out some guy. And like, that's a great look. Good job, President. You look real presidential there, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, and they got thugs. They got a decent amount of criticism on social media for that.
Sure did.
Right. So they got hit pretty hard, which is kind of interesting too, because
also feeds the narrative that all this is being run out of the White House.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what are you doing? Your thing should be, and he wants to give after the verdict, he wants to address the nation. Right. Biden wants to give a national speech after the verdict. So the network's going to just give him a free commercial because that is, there's no other reason for Biden to address the nation about some other guy getting convicted, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. And I think, as you were saying before, though, I mean, based on what I've heard, you listen to the CNN folks. I've heard some people, I've seen some things, but from the New York Times too. It's just, there's a lot of skepticism about this because they need a unanimous verdict. And there's several different charges there. And it's, it's going to be very hard to get a unanimous verdict, on these charges. The state just really hasn't done a good job of, pleading its case.
Right. I mean, you even got CNN guys on TV going, "Oh, I'm not sure this is done." Right.
Yeah. Even with a criticism of Costello for the defense, the Trump defense was, they just threw, they had a couple of guys up there and that was it. And they kept that defense to a minimum. And so they really threw, they kept the burden of proof was on the prosecution. And, Cohen and Stormy Daniels, I don't really think they did a very good job overall.
Right.
Not to the extent that you're going to say, yeah, we got Trump, we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he knew about this.
On the word of a porn star who claims who has written a letter saying they never had sex, and a guy who went to prison for perjury. Those are your star witnesses.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a tough case for them to win. And what like we said before, it's like Alvin Bragg. This is just a shameful act on his part to even bring this case forward. To begin with,
when no one else wanted it because they realized it wasn't a case.
Yeah, and it makes the case for Trump. I mean, this has basically been a sham trial, right? I mean,
and it's had all and especially the judge in there, striking down the expert witnesses and all this stuff. I mean, it's a show trial. It's a Soviet Star Chamber show trial.
Yeah. So compared to Robert De Niro, I saw a quick thing about the actor Dennis Quaid.
Right.
He said Trump is an a-hole, but he's like my a-hole.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically they keep asking us. He sends the mean tweets. It's like we don't care, right? We're looking at things getting done right versus not getting done right.
Yeah. I mean, it bothers me to a certain extent, but it's not going to stop me from voting for him. right?
The choices were, these are binary, these are left or right, A or B choices, and you got to, he's better than the other one by a long way. That's true. You know what? I don't know. I don't know how. I think Putin takes Biden for a chump, right? Who can be rolled, and I've always thought that. And no events have failed to bear that out so far. So, I don't know. But there's certainly something to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to what we've been talking about kind of for a long time, and the difference between Trump and Biden, their styles when it comes to diplomacy, international diplomacy, and all these kinds of things, foreign policy, is Trump was he's so unpredictable. It does make it hard for world leaders to come down and necessarily go when they want to do what they want to roll him or whatever. But on the other hand, you've got Biden, who is part of that whole establishment, very predictable in nature, that kind of a thing that happens. So that it's like I don't think it was hard for Putin and to come up with a roadmap that says, well, we can do this. We can go into Ukraine because we know what the outcome is likely to be. It may take us a while, but versus where Trump probably would have had a much heavier hand with this, and
it might get vaporized.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They were less likely to try it. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we have these things have been going on. So we have that this ongoing thing. And if you want a strong foreign policy as well, then I think you have to look to Trump, versus Biden, because those are things that we're seeing. Foreign policy, not good.
Right.
Immigration, not good. Right. So all these things that can be that you can check off these little boxes and say, what exactly is the pro-Biden argument these days? That it's pretty slim. I mean,
it basically boils down to it's a good question though. Basically boils down to things are not as bad as they were earlier in my administration, and Trump is will end democracy. You have no evidence Trump will end democracy, none, zero, and you have no evidence that like keeping you on the show will get us better economic, border, foreign policy, right? If you were going to be good, you would already be good. We would already be able to tell that you deserve to be reelected, but we can't tell, and so it's not probably going to be you.
Yeah, so we'll have to kind of see how we still have 159 days till the election, but time is ticking away very, very fast.
He's got about a month to try to make some inroads. If he doesn't, it's probably not going to be. It's probably not going to happen for him.
Yeah, because I think didn't you say before too that we get to a certain point, like in summer, and then at that point things are kind of set in stone. They start. Yeah. They're not going to change dramatically after a certain point, so that what you see is likely what you will see. You'll get on election day. So that clock is as it ticks down there. I mean, look, Biden is getting criticized. The Democrats are getting criticized by James Carville. Katie Couric came out the other day, and she's talking about Biden and his lack of kind of tough interviews. That does not bode well for him. We'll see what happens during the debates, but it sounded like she's not very hopeful of his performance there because he hasn't really had any real tough interviews, so that he can face a debate, right? You have.
Yeah, I don't worry a whole lot about all that because one thing you got to remember that at the end of the day, and I don't just say this because he's the politician of the other party, but he is a compulsive liar, right? He can lie every day in every way with a straight face, And I know they say that about Trump. Trump exaggerates. That's different. I have 11,000. They all know me and love me. Not they don't all know you and they don't all love you, right? So those kind of things, you're like, okay, that's hyperbole. But Biden, when you think about it, he ran in 2016 on the very fine people hoax. He ran in 2020 on the losers and suckers hoax. I mean, I'm sorry, he ran in 2020 on very fine people. He's running this time on losers and suckers, right? John Bolton, who hates Trump, said Trump never said that, right? Trump never said that. Why would he say it? It's not consistent with anything else he's ever said, right? So, and he obviously loves the military. He obviously loves, helping the troops. You look at these graduation speeches, right? Remember, he was the Air Force Academy one time, and he stayed there after they told him to leave. We got to go be some other place. So he could shake hands with every single graduate, all 1,000 graduates of the Air Force Academy, right? Biden goes to West Point, tells them he was in the Navy, which was a lie, and leaves in 20 minutes, right? I mean, they got that. That was a heavily complained about speech too, right? Biden going to West Point. So, it's the kind of thing. It's like Trump is able to appeal to people. Biden is able to, he looks like a politician. The people are like, I just want one that looks like all the rest. They're for Biden, right? But if you think about like what they actually do, or you watch them for any period of time, Trump is a lot more attractive, date as a presidential candidate than Biden is, right? He's of the people. He's funny, he's active. He has an active mind. He's thinking about a lot of different stuff. And, Biden is pretty much locked down into, how can I spend more government money and buy more votes?
Right. I mean, look at the speech that he gave to Morehouse College, right? I mean,
right.
That was a horrible speech.
Yeah. Like that was your country doesn't love you back. Black men are getting killed in the streets. You have to work 10 times as hard. So you're a victim. You're behind. You're not, you're situated. You got your degree from Morehouse, but you don't really have a leg up on nothing, right? That accomplishment means, only so much because of the, horrible racism of our country. And Trump is in the South Bronx like the same day or the next day, I guess it was. And he says, I don't care if you're white or black or brown or whatever the hell you are, he said. We're all going to get together and save America, right? That's the message. Not, you're a victim and we owe you reparations. But, we got to put whatever's between us behind us and go to work to save the country. I mean, which message would you be more attracted to? Sight unseen from the two guys. Which one would you be more attractive to? One holds out hope. One keeps us in the same, old battles that we've been fighting for 50 years and haven't gotten anywhere.
Yeah. Well, once again, like I said, we will see, but it's interesting. Biden's lying. It's just that he can't resist repeating the same lies over and over again. I mean, it's just you would.
Yeah, he said that for a while, for a couple of weeks, he was on every time he spoke anywhere. He said the inflation was 9% when he took office. It was 1.4. He brought it up to 9. That's right. They did. Their thing is, and that's what people are discovering, is that they have a politics for black people. They have a politics for Hispanic people. They have a politics for women. They have a politics for white men. They have a politics for rural and urban. Right? It's like, that is the thing, because they think of everyone in groups and they rank the groups. This group good, that group bad. Right? Which is like the epitome of racism. That's what racism is. It's like, because you're a member of this group, you have all these other characteristics that I assign to you because all I know about you is you're a member of this group, right? And so that's the way they think, and that is the thing that people are looking at and saying, that's not right. I may appear to be in this group, but that's like all those black people in South Bronx. I may look like I belong in the other group, but by golly, I'm looking at the facts, and the facts say I should be here.
Yeah,
I think for myself. I'm an American, and that is what is going on here.
And it's just that through what he says, there's so much pandering. I mean, add
Right.
Morehouse or whatever. When he says these things, or he has the lies, like at West Point, and it's not the first time he's talked about the whole Naval Academy experience, is that he's trying to find a way to pander to each audience, right?
Right.
And it's like it's so blatant, it's just ridiculous. And that is, I mean, as John said, I mean, division, that's part of it. I mean, he's dividing America. The Democrats, I go back to Obama, where he talked about, if he was elected, he was going to, bring both sides out together. He was going to, kind of bridge that divide. 4 years later, we were further apart. 8 years later, we were, it only grew. Trump tried to, he tried to close the gap, but Biden has also started to, that gap is widening again, because it's kind of like, this is the group. When you deal with, and your focus is identity politics and racism, this is what's going to happen. This country will not get together. And when you do that, if you're campaigning on that, that's not the winning strategy. That's not the way to unify this country at all. So, all right. As we get around the bend here, we got to talk about Texas, because those runoffs were really interesting, and Gonzalez won by the thinnest of thin margins.
He sure did. So he was running against a guy who was like a social media guy.
YouTuber. The Second Amendment YouTuber.
Yeah. And, it shows that there's a limit to the crazy, right? It's like that guy was a little touched. But it also shows Gonzalez that, hew to the right, stay close to the Trump wing of the party, because, getting away from it is not helpful. Work out your differences with them, not with others.
Yeah, and I mean the runoffs were interesting as analysis were coming, because a lot of this was necessary because Governor Abbott got into the fray by he was looking to basically get some political revenge for the state legislators who stymied him on his school voucher type of thing, reform. So, and I think he managed to knock off, as a result, I think they
knocked off 14 guys, I think.
Yeah, something. 12, so they knocked off a few guys. So I mean, it helps tip the scales a little bit more. I mean, it's not great to see Republicans fighting among Republicans, but that's also a reminder that when you're in a state like Texas, which is heavily Republican, you don't play with the Republican governor on this issue. I know a lot of those legislators were trying to protect rural interests, and they were worried about some other things. But this whole thing about getting, like, anything that deals with school vouchers, other ways of educating the students, out of the public school system, most parents love it. I mean, there was that story, I don't know if you saw, it's so successful in Florida that their public schools in Florida may have to close, because there's so many students that are enrolled in these charter schools and things like that, after DeSantis, pushed through all this legislation and got all this stuff to happen. And, I think the students are probably thriving as a result, but, they've got like close to 50,000 students now into these various charters. I kind of feel for the schools that may have to close in a way, but it's like, look, if your performance wasn't there, your performance isn't there. And this happens. I mean, I've Montgomery County, I've seen schools close because of enrollment issues, not because of charter schools, because we can't get anything done here. But it still shows that there is a demand. I mean, DC, they've lost there's charter schools that operate in DC and places like
DC. It's half the students.
Yeah,
are in charter schools.
And I think PG County has tried to start that, and there was a heavy demand for that. So there's things that work, right? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know Bob. You guys know him very well and everything like that. It's like you don't want you can't sell your soul on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's like I think maybe after this election, maybe he can read the tea leaves a little bit better and say, okay, I kind of know where
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said stay close to them.
Yeah.
Right. Do not oppose them. Right. You can't vote with them every single time. Okay. But if you're there close to them, discussing with them, being on their side, right, then there's a little bit of leeway to go off the reservation at times, right? But if you look opposed to them, or if you look more opposed to them than your opponent, you're going to be in trouble, right? And that's what he found out. I mean, he barely won. So
yeah, I mean, there was a fair amount of outside money, being poured into his campaign compared to this challenger. The ratio was what, 4 or 5 to 1, something in that range. So you have to say, it's like that guy came awfully close to doing that. Katrina Pearson won one of the Senate House races, I guess, in Texas, and she's a former Trump spokesperson. I remember her from the early days of when we would go around, and Americans for Prosperity had these blogger things and all these kind of things like that. And what's the organization that went defunct just recently in DC? It was the the thing that Kemp started, and
Empower America.
Yeah, they merged. They merged, and with I don't even know why that name escapes me. But anyway, then they just folded shop, right? In the last couple of weeks, they just shut down like that. But they would hold events, and we'd go around the country and kind of trade and exchange ideas and things like that. So she was always fairly prominent in those conservative circles at that time, and definitely got elevated. Doing a lot of stuff for Trump and everything like that. So. But yeah, so I don't know if what happened in Texas, on the state level is enough to swing it, the next time it goes around for, when Abbott tries to get this legislation passed. But then again,
what's going on?
It may scare some of the people. I mean, the speaker almost lost.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. The problem is the speaker puts Democrats in committee chairmanships and stuff, and does some pretty weird things for a Republican speaker. And so part of this is, electing enough people to not have him be the speaker anymore. So, and like Ken Paxton put out something, he's the Attorney General of Texas, might well be the Attorney General of the United States this time next year, saying, if you vote for Del Phelan to be speaker again, you're done as a Republican in Texas. So, they've had enough. They're going to clear it up one way or the other.
All right. One more quick comment from John, and then we got to wrap it up quickly.
Good. I wonder what they're closing.
No, you guys can have a chat.
Somebody email me what they're closing, please.
All right. Give you about a minute to close this off.
I think my home state has gone a little overboard with the 10 commandments on the wall of the school. I understand that we're based on those principles and whatnot, but I think that's needlessly provocative. The Alito flag flap makes the other side look exceedingly stupid. There's no other way to say it. The Libertarian convention was, it was good for Trump to go there and say he would free Ulbricht and all this stuff, and face the music. And RFK too. I admire him for going and trying, but those people are irredeemable. I wish they would be useful for one day, but it has not happened yet. Media Matters layoffs. Sorry, guys. And I don't think the Negro League should use. I don't think we should be using Negro League stats because they weren't generated against major league players. I mean, it's just sorry, I don't want to sound bigoted, but some of those teams were not. Some of those pitchers were not major league quality pitchers. And R.I.P. Grayson Murray, who I guess committed suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, golf's tough. That's a tough way to make a living. And of course, to Bill Walton, who I was a big Bill Walton fan, as a basketball fan, as a Grateful Dead fan, as a post. I love post basketball. Probably the greatest post passer in the history of the game.
All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today. Please stay safe and stay well as always. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. And we will see you again next week.